line that I came up with at the start of the semester when we were tasked with finding a main idea for our project. At first, it was a branding move, sort of a motto for my clothing company, Atomic Studios. But it ended up having so much more important meaning, and it changed the entire direction of my project. I focused on growing my clothing company, Atomic Studios, and growing my personal brand as a designer. When I say growing my personal brand, I want it to be more than just the owner of Atomic. I want it to be looked at as an artist and as a designer, so I use social media to advertise my work and grow my following. I created an entire clothing collection for Atomic entitled Drop One that included 5 products, all of which were designed by me and my co-designer Federico. It was more than just a collection of products to me. I wanted the line to be an experience with a cohesive mood and aesthetic. I spent a lot of time planning, creating visual content, working on promotion, marketing, and branding. At the start of the semester, my goals were all set around the brand's growth. I wanted all the visuals of the brand to look as high quality as possible. So I spent countless hours refining the website, working on social media, and planning our moves one by one. I ended up creating an entire lookbook for the collection. For anyone wondering what that is, a lookbook is basically just a fancy fashion term for a bunch of photos of clothes. The lookbook includes studio shots and multiple creative photo shoots, as well as a 30-second Drop One teaser video to get people excited exactly 1 week before the release. I was also extremely interested in learning how to create cut-and-sew garments from scratch over the course of the semester. Cut-and-sew is a form of clothing manufacturing where you create a pattern and design from scratch and sew all the garments by hand, instead of, say, printing a logo on a mass-produced blank t-shirt. 2 out of the 5 products from the line were hand-sewn by me in class on my mom's tiny old sewing machine. And diving into cut-and-sew really changed the direction of my project. After Drop One, I decided to go back to the basics. Keep creating was a motto that I decided to use not only for Atomic, but for me personally as well. I started getting bored of making things that were consumer-friendly, and I felt like I was getting dumbed down as an artist. Wanting to make things that were truly creative, but not being able to because it's not sellable, was why I wanted to take a step back from the business and politics of running a brand. I started thinking of ways I could challenge myself and grow as a designer and come up with new concepts and ideas. I was making a lot of pieces, but I wanted something more consistent, something where I could create whatever I wanted and try to challenge myself as a designer and as an artist. Taking inspiration from one of my favorite YouTubers, Casey Neistat, who uploads a video every single day, I decided to create a weekly social media series called Creations by Adam, where I would post a design or creation that was either designed or completely hand-sewn by me every single week. The idea was that I could create a piece that was truly creative and I wouldn't have to worry about people liking it or sales or anything business related. I wanted a chance to get truly inspired. My goal, no matter what, was to create things that not only I was proud of, but also the people I looked up to could appreciate. People like Yohji Yamamoto, Jaden Smith, and Kanye West, who have all had a major influence in the fashion scene, and who have all shifted the culture and changed the world that I operate in. One thing that I've learned over the course of the semester is that the industry isn't as far away as you might think. These big-time people are constantly looking and scouting for the next generation of young creators. Knowing that is a big motivator for me, and it pushes me to always be on my A game. At the start of the semester, I'd set a goal for myself. A goal that I knew was possible, but some people might have thought was crazy. I told myself I'd be sitting down with Jaden Smith by the 19th of September 2017. Just 1 week ago, I found out that Jaden Smith's manager had seen my most recent fashion project and told me to be expecting an email soon. The last 5 months have opened up a lot of great opportunities for me, but there wasn't one big success throughout the semester. It was a collection of smaller wins and successes that made everything worth it for me. Creating clothing from scratch was something that I was very excited about. It's something that no comparable brand in Winnipeg does, and it's something that sets Atomic apart. Seeing the Drop One collection teaser for the first time was an amazing moment that gave me goosebumps, and seeing the reaction online got me extremely excited to release the full line. I'd like to show you all this teaser now. ended up selling out of 30% of our stock in the first night, which was great. And we got an amazing overall online response from people saying it was Atomic's best work yet. I think we really lived up to my own goals to create a high-quality collection and great content for Drop One. There were also a few other great side projects that turned out amazing as well. I collaborated with my friend and fellow fashion designer Galata to create a photo/video project called No Boundaries that challenged the gender roles within fashion. It's been getting amazing online feedback, and it felt really good to be putting something truly creative and different out. I also got to connect with some of my favorite dancers and photographers, some of which I have Braden Tucker here, who's a 15-year-old famous dancer from LA, and Aesthetic, who's one of my favorite street photographers. But the one thing that I'm probably most proud of is a little unexpected, which is a social media series, Creations by Adam. Ever since I started doing it, I've made some of my favorite and most creative pieces to date. This is you can see right there, this is a silk or satin bomber jacket. Satin's like super hard to work with because it's slippery, and so this is a bit of a nightmare. Turned out cool, I think. That traffic cone looking thing in the middle it's a turtleneck, and I decided to slap a zipper on the sleeve instead of being normal and slapping it right in the middle where it should go. And then this is actually the first piece I made for Creations by Adam, and it features a fully functional, completely unnecessary pocket on the back of the garment. It's cool. This series has been a great challenge for me, and it's been getting amazing engagement with my followers. Ever since I started, I've been getting non-stop requests from people asking me to make them one-on-one pieces. I even had one guy ask if I was willing to ship the middle piece there to Paris for him. And he ended up wanting the piece so bad that he paid me extra just so I could ship it to him. Even though there was a substantial amount of success with my project, there was also an equal amount, if not more, struggle and failure. Leading up to Drop One, just making the clothing was a nightmare. Doing cut and sew comes with a massive learning curve that admittedly I wasn't prepared for. When I started sewing, I broke 4 needles in one day. I had multiple failed samples, and I had to recreate the pattern 5 times. One of the most difficult moments was after the release of Drop One. The first night, we sold 30% of our stock, which I mentioned was a big success. But the second night, we didn't sell a single item. I'm not gonna lie, that hurt. I felt lost, and I didn't feel like my project had any direction. I was a little disappointed that Drop One hadn't turned out the way I had planned, and I also didn't really know what to do with myself in my work time. After spending a couple weeks lost, I ended up having a long conversation with Mr. P and Mr. Hansen about what was going on. They helped me get back on track. I had to really reevaluate the situation and look at what had happened. I also had to be very real with myself and realize that nothing happens overnight, and that anything worth attaining isn't easy. So I decided to stay patient and move on. I could have easily given up after any of the challenges that I faced, but that's too easy. Quitting and complaining are the easy ways out. That's why everyone does it. I find that kids my age will often give up rather than finding a solution to their problems. As soon as something goes wrong, they'll think that their whole life is over. But being in Propel has taught me that giving up isn't an option. The more you fail, the faster you will succeed. If you hit a roadblock, you problem solve until you find a way to get around it. Developing this mindset is such a valuable skill that can be applied to so many tough life situations. Using the same mindset helped me learn how to think critically about every situation throughout the semester. For example, when you're marketing a product or building a brand, whether it be personal or a company, it's important to keep track of your data, test strategies, and analyze how your target market responds to certain things. You can keep track of these things by looking at analytics on social media. Sites like Instagram and Twitter will show you how many likes, engagements, and impressions each post will get. Knowing what these terms mean is extremely important if you want to know what your followers like and dislike. For example, impressions is how many times your post has been seen, and engagements is the amount of people who have interacted with that post. Most websites also have a page where you can look at stats and see how many people visit your site a day. As you can see here, these are screenshots from Atomic's website. The week before Drop One, we had about 200 views on the website, and the week of the release, our site peaked at around 3,000. Studying stats like these helped me learn a lot about how the consumer responds to certain things. I found that people don't respond well when they're constantly being asked to buy something. When I started Creations by Adam, the response was amazing because there's no request to buy attached. People just like to see cool clothes, and instead of me asking people to go buy my latest product, I showed them something cool with no strings attached. That led to people becoming more interested in me, as well as my clothing brand, which ended up leading to more sales and more engaged followers. You You can see the proof of my theory on these stat charts as well. You can see that atomic site visits go up significantly once I started Creations by Adam. It might look like a small bubble compared to the visits from Drop 1, but keep in mind, this is me posting solely on my personal account with no direct connection to Atomic. People were drawn organically to Atomic's site by me working on my personal brand. So you can see here, technically and naturally, the stats should go down because we stopped posting on Atomic, but that bubble there is from right as I started Creations by Adam. And you can see the same thing here. It was less engagement, and then the engagement kind of skyrocketed as soon as I did that. I've learned a lot of other valuable skills over the course of the semester. From Cody teaching me how to use Photoshop and Lightroom, to project management and directing large-scale projects, to negotiating with potential customers, clients, and manufacturers. But a skill that I'm particularly proud of improving on is my writing. Looking back at old pieces that I've written before Propel, it's insane to see how much of a difference a well-written email or proposal can make. At the start of the semester, it would have taken me ages to write an email to a blog or artist that I wanted to connect with. And I'd be constantly asking Mr. Hansen, Mr. P, or Cody if it was good or not. Improving that skill has proven to be extremely beneficial, and I've been able to connect with so many people by doing it. I also learned a ton about how to create garments from scratch and the process behind cut and sew. Before Propel, I'd made less than 10 items on a sewing machine, and I had no knowledge of how to create patterns or templates so that garments could be mass-produced. At first, this was a huge learning curve. I had to learn how to use different needles and stitches to work with different types of fabric, and I had very little knowledge about how simple garments were constructed. So at first, making a shirt would take me all day, with barely any break for lunch. But as the semester went on, I started to become faster and faster, and the quality of my clothing got better and better. I'm happy to say right now that I could easily make a shirt for any one of you in under an hour. There's one thing that I originally didn't want to talk about, and that thing is an app called Loka that me and my classmate Cody created. The first reason I didn't want to talk about Loka is because I thought switching from fashion designer to app developer within 30 seconds might get a little confusing for all of you. The second reason I didn't want to talk about Loka is because our app isn't really an app yet. It's an idea. And even though it's a pretty well thought out idea, it still hasn't been developed. We don't have the $80,000 it's going to take to develop it. And neither me or Cody have any idea how to develop an app. But the content of the app and what we've accomplished so far isn't the important part. I don't want to talk about how we created an entire interface design for the app, or how we're currently talking to a company called Northforge, who has funded over 60 companies and has given them over $180 million in funding. I wanted to talk about how just 3 weeks ago, two 17-year-olds decided to use their spare time to brainstorm what the next billion-dollar company would be. Found an idea that they liked, and decided to just do it. I'd say that's pretty ambitious. And it doesn't really matter if this app never comes into fruition. The important part is that we're going to try to make it happen, and without this place, that wouldn't have been possible. I've learned a lot here at Propel, not just with skills, but about myself as well. I've been more motivated to dive into new projects with less fear of failure. I'm planning to travel this year and explore the fashion scene in other cities. I'm planning a charity art show that will feature some of my work and designs, and Cody and I will be spending lots of time building and working on Loka. All that, and I'll consistently be releasing content with Atomic and Creations by Adam. Without Propel, I have no idea where I'd be right now. I'm so thankful for the opportunities and knowledge that I've been given, and I can't wait to see what's next. It's been fascinating to see my project evolve and change over the course of the semester. That being said, I have honestly no idea what's next. In a year, Cody and I could have sold our app for $1 billion. I could be making clothing for some of the biggest celebrities in the world. Or maybe I'll be doing Propel for a second time back here at Nelson Mack. Either way, whatever happens, I'll always keep thinking, keep making, and